a six, a helping hand with your land.
Neil from Essex here to show you another one of New Holland's specialty tractors. Over the last several months here, we've covered the narrow orchard tractors, the even more narrow vineyard tractors, and in the progress of posting those videos, several of you asked in the comments if we would ever make our way over to the tracked machines. And I told you that I thought that was unlikely. We live in Pennsylvania, not the kind of crazy hillsides and stuff where you have vineyards that are going to be planted in areas that necessitate a tracked tractor for maintaining them. However, one has just arrived. This is the New Holland TK4.100M, a 100 horsepower tractor that comes through with this large track frame on it. Now, when you look at this machine, obviously this is made for a very specific application, not something you're gonna find on an everyday farm. This large track frame underneath the machine gives it some really meaningful traction, but not just traction, also stability. This is a machine that is run generally on extreme hillsides, in vineyards that might be planted going up the sides of mountains, where you need a tractor with a lot of weight down low in order to be able to crawl up and down those dangerous slopes. Speaking of weight, this thing is heavy. When you look at this big track undercarriage and the weight carriers and everything on the front, you're looking at a solid 3,000 to 4,000 additional pounds over the regular wheeled variants of this machine. So it's a really heavy tractor with a lot of weight down low for those tractive hillside applications. Tractors like this are almost always going to be paired with some pretty unique implements, often ones that require a lot of flexibility in their hydraulic circuits. You'll notice a whole set of outlets across the back of the machine here, also with 2 return lines available down here on the bottom for a variety of rear implements. Now, interestingly enough, you're going to notice multiple variations of this machine that can be configured in different ways, and those different configurations may come through with different amounts of hydraulic flow. I struggled a little bit in prepping for this video to figure out the different variations of these machines that are out there. Certain ones of them seem to be tailored towards field work, where other ones are tailored more towards this vineyard type application that I'm the most familiar with this type of machine in. That hydraulic flow is going to vary a little bit between different models. When you go through and search and you look at these spec sheets, you'll find some with surprisingly low hydraulic flow that are geared towards doing field work on the side of a mountain, literally, and others with a lot more hydraulic flow that are more geared towards orchard and vineyard type applications, where you need significant hydraulic flow coming out the back of the machine in order to operate sprayers being towed on the back of the machine. If you look here at the tractor itself, its track frame and all this really low center of gravity, when I stand beside this here, you can see how low this machine is. I mean, what would typically be the wheel well is right here nearly at hip level for me. My 3-point hitches, even in a raised position, are at my knees. And the drawbar is way down here on the ground, so you can see how low down to the ground the center of mass of this machine is, giving you that stability, but it creates these kind of funny quirks in your 3-point geometry where your arms and your drawbar are so low to the ground. You can see back here this machine has a 540 and 540E PTO, fairly common in this size machine, selectable here on the back. But the most interesting to me is just the size of all the linkages and everything here on the back. You can tell this is a machine that can really put the power to the ground, and that's reflected in these support bars and everything that hold on to that drawbar and support it, not just from the chassis of the machine itself, but also pulling from the backs of the track frames there as well. One of the benefits to New Holland's specialty tractors is the degree to which they tailor the cabs for the applications that these machines find themselves in. So when you go through and you look at the cab filtration options and how the HVAC systems are built, there's a lot more work that's put into making sure that the cabs are protecting the operator from sprays and stuff that might be applied behind the machines. So these aren't just simply regular tractor cabs on small machines, but machines which are going to have additional levels of filtration and stuff as they come through to the operator. I always like to look for the quirks and the compromises that have to be made in the way that a machine is built, and because of the way these tracks are done and the footwells and the underside of the machine is built, you're going to find that all of the air conditioning componentry is actually pushed up here in the roof. So when you start looking around on the top, you'll find the condensers, the radiators and everything are all contained up here on the top, not in lower parts of the machine where you would find them on a traditional tractor. When you look at many product lines and you go from one model to the next, Oftentimes you'll find that companies use as many common components between models as what's possible. And when you look around that tractor, you can see how that's done, right? We're reusing and iterating on existing designs to make new models. This one though has a surprising amount of unique stuff inside of it. When I sit down here on the cab, I've got a floor well down here that's unlike any machine that I'm used to seeing. Over here on the right hand side, my hydraulic controls and everything are a completely different fender than what I've seen on any other tractor. The dash controls and everything, these are familiar, right? This is stuff that you've seen before, but really some surprisingly unique layouts and stuff inside the cab for what is probably a fairly low production, low volume machine, right? And obvious engineering effort that was put into making this thing, which is kind of cool. When I work my way across the controls here, you're gonna see a lot of stuff that same kind of controls you find on most tractors, right? Hydraulics, 3-point hitches, that kind of stuff, but just a different layout and arrangement of things. The 4 levers right off here on my side are all of my rear hydraulics. These are gonna give you a mix of constant flow ports and self-canceling ports, depending on what your needs are for your rear implements. Right here is New Holland's Lift-O-Matic, a system that allows you to take the 3-point hitch from full up to full down and basically quickly return to your operating positions. This is gonna come through a draft control on it, assuming that you're doing draft type work. And lastly, I have all of my gear selectors. Now these are gonna be the ones with orange stickers on the top of them because they impact movement. That's kind of an international tractor thing that you tend to see. This machine is gonna generally have a high and low range that's done down here on the floor with a 4-gear selector attached to it. So that's effectively 8 speeds. This one also has a creeper in it that's over here on my right-hand side. So I can drive as low as 0.3 miles an hour and creep along really slowly for doing a lot of that application type work. Interestingly enough, this machine does not have a clutch in it. So when I want to select these gears, I stop the machine, select the one that I want, and then go back to moving again with no foot clutch. There's nothing here that's shift on the go. But that said, this thing's really not fast enough that you're going to be able to throw the gears while you're moving anyway. You're generally going to come to a stop when you go to make that gear selection. The steering here is really unique. This is not a track steer type machine. It does not drive like a 0-turn mower or an excavator would, where you have an independent control for your left or right track. This has steering-o-matic. For real, somebody out there comes up with these names. This center control right here is going to allow you to push this forward in order to drive the machine front, and then vary it to the left or the right in order to steer left or right. It's going to lock forward here, so if you're simply just driving in a straight line, you can just push it front and let it go, which is kind of neat. It does allow you to kind of set the machine in motion and then pay attention to what you're doing and work on other things, which is something that I like. I found it very easy to drive, believe it or not. It'll buck around and that kind of stuff like you would expect a machine like this to do, but the steering system here was very easy to get onto. Okay. We're going to do a little driving demo for you here on the crawler tractor and this little wobbly stick thing here and how this works. It's kind of fun. So we're going to go into A range, 2nd gear, got my creeper turned off, and as I take the little drive stick here and push it forward, see the tractor starts to move front now. Once I want to steer, I simply move this to the left or the right, and it'll start to favor one track over the other. I'm not sure mechanically what's happening when I move the stick left to right that causes it to favor that one side over the other. You can hear a kind of hydraulic pressure when I go from one side to the other, so I would guess that it's probably braking one side or the other, more than likely. It may be doing that hydraulically, I'm not sure. 13.5 miles an hour, so not nearly about half the speed of a wheeled machine basically, but that's not the point. You're not out trying to set speed records with this thing. Over here on my right hand side I have a creeper gear, so when you want to go into low, you can go into that creeper. This will be my lowest speed. I'm hardly moving. Oh my goodness, that track hardly even turns. Now one thing that I may not have explained real well is that this thing does have a neutral in it. When you're not, say, driving forward under power, it is in neutral. back up here, try it again. I actually freewheeled a little bit when I was coming down that hill. I have foot brakes up here in order to stop myself. I am freewheeling, but sure enough, I kicked this into neutral. Again, just, I wish I understood a little bit better from the transmission perspective of exactly what's happening there. Because this thing is, maybe it's hydrostatically driven. I just didn't get that impression. There's too much power here for it to be a hydro. Try that again. All right, so we're going to go down to first gear this time. In E range, so I'm under E range here. I'm going to go down under power this time. And we tip. Woo! There's the tip. So that feels very controlled and very safe. I've done a lot of turf damage in here over the years of moving stuff around. This is really kind of the turf, but it's an 11,000 pound machine, right? If I'm comparing it to an excavator or something like that, I run a 5-ton excavator through here, I do a lot of turf damage. But the tracks on this thing are really long, they're really wide, and they just seem to be surprisingly kind to the turf. Really cool. One of the things I think is good for us as salespeople to be aware of is just some of these more unique tractors that are out there. You know, when we're selling equipment, we should be selling equipment into specific applications, right? Machines that are going out to do very specific tasks depending on what you have to do. And we get sometimes, not just us as salespeople, but with guys, customers like yourselves too, get so used to seeing particular machines that when we go to buy a piece of equipment, it's, you know, we gravitate towards a 75 horsepower utility tractor when there might be better machines for the job. You can sit and kind of think through, you know, I've sold some tractors where we're putting dual wheel kits on and extra wheel blades and ballasting tires down low in order to get hillside stability to mow the sides of landfills and that kind of stuff. Why not use a tractor like this, right? You've got ample horsepower, you have more than enough weight, you've got all the stability in the world. You very easily could pull a 15-foot batwing with this thing, and that would be awesome, right? It would be a much safer to use setup, nicer to operate than, you know, all the pucker that you're going to have for driving a traditional tractor on a hillside, even when set up is the best that you can. So it's good to know about these specialty models so that when you're looking at those unique applications and you need to do something that's a little outside the box, that you know the tool set that you have available in order to be able to accomplish those tasks. Driving this around is a lot of fun because I get all kinds of crazy looks from people. Super cool tractor, the very first one that I've seen in the flesh, and it's a great machine. It's really neat to see the different applications that these machines are sold into and the degree to which the manufacturers are going to go through and design and customize a piece of equipment to make it exactly right for a particular farmer and a particular application so that they can work as effectively and profitably as possible. I think it's really cool to see the degree that New Holland has gone to with that. And this is one of these things that this company does really better than what some others do. It's the time and the care that they put into developing these specialty models. You'll find a lot more in terms of low profile vineyard, orchard, track crawlers and stuff from New Holland than what you do from many of the other tractor companies that are out there. So if you have a really unique application that could justify a machine like this, I'd love to sell another one. Give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at Messick's.com. Neil from Messick's here to show you another one. The highway is so loud. Okay, New Holland's specialty tractors. Over the last, did I say specialty weird? Through before you see have pressure positive cabs, you have to jake brake right down the highway as we stand here, right? Going to. Woo! I bet you're gonna be able to see the water running off my face.